Hello students, today we will go through with the recently concluded Geography Optional Paper 1. I am sure that all of you who has appeared in this year's UPSC mains with the Geography Optional, you must have found that the paper was comparatively doable. And when you will go through with the question paper, then you will find that most of the questions in this year's examination was very much from they have been asked from the topics that you must have practiced. So like in most of the year, like last 4-5 years, they were having tendency of asking one question or two questions in the question number 1 as a random question. But this year that random question has not been asked, and the questions were very much from the topics that you have studied. So direct question has been asked. By going through the paper, you will find that the paper was easy to moderate, but there are few things that are coming out, and these are very important things that you need to understand. Paper was easy to moderate, but it will not be that much easy to tackle if you have not done the answer writing, because the question they have asked was requiring analytical ability. Question requires argumentative kind of writing. So if you have prepared just by going through the PYQ and you have just tried to do the answer writing by yourself, you will get stuck, because the orientation that the examiner is looking out through these questions is like that you should be argumentative, you need to include the environmental perspective, you need to be analytical, you need to be try to interlink the different topics. That was the main challenge, and that is why whosoever has done the answer writing exhaustively along with their conceptual clarity, they will definitely do well in this question paper. But those who solely just going through with the study, जिन्होंने बस केवल पढ़ाई किया कि ठीक है टेस्ट सीरीज भी ज्वाइन किया फिर भी टेस्ट नहीं लिखा, they were just busy in the preparing the topics कि ये नहीं पढ़ा, ये नहीं पढ़ा, ये भी पढ़ लेते, ये भी पढ़ लेते, ये क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है, तो they will get stuck and the chances of scoring good marks will go down. तो एक चीज तो आपको ध्यान में रखना होगा कि whatever the content you will have, you need to learn that contents, how to interlink, how to present that content in the answer format. Answer format थोड़ा सा अलग होगा. One more interesting thing is coming out. The paper is very well balanced. Almost they have tried to touch upon all the areas. So all the areas has been touched upon. As I used to say in my classes, in my in all the programs, आप जहां से भी मुझसे इंटरेक्ट किए होंगे, मैंने आपको हमेशा एक ही चीज सजेस्ट किया है कि दैट योर ड्यूटी इज नॉट टू प्रेडिक्ट द पेपर. नो नीड टू गो फॉर द प्रेडिक्शन की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. आप प्रिपेयर करिए एंड लेट द एग्जामिनर आस्क द क्वेश्चन. In fact, this year the same thing has happened. When you will go through with the question paper, you will find that the geomorphology is dominating. The geomorphology is dominating, but the geomorphology, if you will just study the geomorphology and you are not having the perspective of the contemporary issues, the environmental issues, it will be very difficult for you to tackle the question properly. उसी तरीके से when you will go through with the geographical thought in section B, तो geographical thought भी देखेंगे कि आप lots of question has been asked from the geographical thought, and most of the questions that has been asked from the geographical thought also, interestingly, the geographical thought, they try to check out that what are the recent development in the geographical thought, what are the recent approaches in the geographical thought. So the orientation was not that much barring only one question, dualism and dichotomy, the orientation was not to check out your understanding of how many scholars you have prepared. It was more like that how the geographical approaches can be utilized in the solving the problems that the humanity is facing. Be it your issue of the poverty, be it your issue of the inequality, be it your issue of the imbalances, be it your issue of the identifying some of the location to set up the industries, to set up the development perspective, regional development, the different approaches that are available. तो पूरा का पूरा ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी में जो ओरिएंटेशन है, एनवायरमेंटल पर्सपेक्टिव के साथ एग्जामिनर इज एक्सपेक्टिंग फ्रॉम यू दैट यू शुड बी नोइंग that if you are studying the welfare approach in the geography, then you need to know that why the welfare approach has been started, what was the relevance of the welfare approach, how the regional synthesis as a concept is useful in the present context. There is a debate of the extraction of the critical mining. So you need to know that what are the critical minerals, that is fine, where the critical minerals are available, that is fine, but along with that, what will be the environmental issues related to the extraction of the critical minerals, harnessing of the critical minerals. So this was the overall orientation of the paper. Questions were very much asked from the topics that you must have done. In fact, whosoever has done the exhaustive answer writing, so I will not claim that it was only in my test series. In general, also those who might have done the exhaustive answer writing, they will find that most of the questions they have practiced. In fact, in my test series, most of the questions when you will go through, like the questions of the glacial lake outburst floods, then mass wasting, your weathering, mass wasting, part of the denudation, solifluction, then you will have the air masses, local winds, ocean waves, currents, tides, denudation chronology, even the deep sea mining issue has been taken up, then the man and wildlife conflicts, tricellular atmospheric circulation model, the issue of Himalaya is still rising, the plate tectonic convergence, formation of the Himalaya, heat budget, the welfare approach, regional imbalances, systems analysis, dichotomy and dualism, and role of language and religion in the cultural region, identification, energy security, the oil. This question has been prepared mainly within the backdrop of what was happening in last few years, and specifically that has been intensified in this era of tariffs, primate city, then the Perox model of regional growth, Poland, demographic transition theory, regional synthesis. So almost most of the topic you will find has been covered in the test series in the answer writing program that I have done, and those students who are part of that, definitely they will not find much problem. But yes, some of the suggestions that I used to give to my students during the answer writing, and again I am emphasizing, is that there is no distinction between that this is for the paper 1, this is for the paper 2. तो आपको पेपर 1 पेपर 2 सेपरेट नहीं पढ़ना, यू नीड टू प्रिपेयर इट लाइक इन अ सिंथेसिस फॉर्म, क्योंकि ग्लेशियल लेक आउटबर्स्ट फ्लड जनरली इज पार्ट ऑफ, इट हैज बीन डिस्कस विद इन द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द इंडिया ज्योग्राफी. तो इंडिया में भी ग्लेशियल लेक बहुत सारी हैं, द वेरी फेमस द चोराबरी ग्लेशियल लेक, तो वहां से क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था. दिस क्वेश्चन हैज बीन आस्क्ड डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द पेपर 2. देन you will find that there is a question of man and wildlife conflicts are ever increasing, discuss its causes and consequences. Here this question has been framed within the perspective of the increasing conflict within the India. Then there is a direct question, Himalaya is still rising. Expand this statement and describe the process involved in it with suitable examples, sketches and examples. So they will have tendency of asking the question, fragile ecosystem, Himalayan ecosystem, questions on the Indian monsoon, questions on the Himalaya. So these questions generally asked in the paper 1 regularly. So you should not get surprised कि ये question यहाँ पे कैसे पूछा गया. It's not a random. Examiner always treats the topics of the geography rather than treating it like a India geography and the world geography. So in answer writing also your approach should be that you need to write about the examples, whatever the examples you are knowing. Now let's start by going through each question quickly. The very first question is, explain the causes of the glacial lake outburst flood. So when you will go through with this question, this is a question, glacial lake outburst. This is a question that has been asked from the perspective of glacial landform. So whenever the question is asking about the explain the causes of glacial lake outburst flood, obviously you will write about the causes, mostly the natural causes, but to certain extent that natural causes, one of the natural causes of the glacial lake outburst is large scale melting of the glacier. But this large scale melting of the glacier is associated with what? That is the man-made activity. So it is being caused by the man-made as well as anthropogenic activity. So man-made as well as natural causes are the responsible for this. Then earthquake is one of the reason, large scale cloud burst is one of the reason. You can give the examples of recent glacial lakes outburst like the Choraburi, very famous Sikkim glacial lake outburst. But it is also important for you to briefly write about the process of formation of glacial lake, because when you will write that the process of the glacial lake formation, how the glaciers are forming, these glaciers are forming due to the movement of the glaciers. So these are the erosional landform. So whenever the glacier is moving, there is a erosion, there will be some trough will form, and in that trough when the glacier will retreat, there is a melting and the melt water will get trapped. There is a different type of trapping. तो जो ट्रैपिंग होगी वो अलग अलग तरह से हो सकती है. So the question is not about the process of formation of the glacial lake outburst. So you need not to write of all the processes, all the types of the glacial lake that are forming, but it is important for you to write in the introduction and convey to this message to the examiner that look, I am not only aware about the contemporary things, about the recent phenomena. तो केवल ऐसा नहीं कि recent phenomena जो आपकी है उसी से I am having the idea. Even I am also having the idea information that how this glacial lake form. तो आपको उसे theoretical part से connect करना पड़ेगा and then give the examples. So write the process of formation of the glacial lake in introduction and then examples, and then write about the causes of the glacial lake outburst flood and case studies. In the case study you can give the best case study. I think all the students must be knowing that the Kedarnath flood, Kedarnath tragedy in Uttarakhand, तो आप उसे as a case study लिख सकते हैं. So this question is from the, if you will try to understand, you will find flood is part of your climate. So flood as a topic is part of your climate, but the glacier, and in fact melting is also a part of the climate change, but the glacial lake as a surface is part of the geomorphology. So it is very hard to say that it is the part of the geomorphology or it is part of the climate change, but obviously because the main question is of the causes of the glacial lake outburst floods, so it is more toward the climate. But this is a question that you will find is part of the both geomorphology plus climate. Now moving to the next question, what is solifluction? What are its impact? So it's a purely question of the mass wasting. So denudation is associated with the three processes. So there are three processes in the denudation. One is your weathering, mass wasting and the erosion. So solifluction is nothing but it is a mass movement and this mass movement is also referred as the mass wasting. Solifluction also sometimes referred as the soil flow. It is mainly witnessed in the periglacial area. Now in periglacial area what happens? The surface is a permafrost. So the surface is the permafrost, but the top layer the top layer will witness the freezing and thawing because of the alternate change in the temperature. So here when the water, the ice will get melt, the top layer ice will get melt, the water will get accumulated and the below lies the permafrost, and because of the permafrost the water will not be able to penetrate. As the water is not penetrating, so this entire surface will be very much overburdened by the water, and because of the gravity there will be a slow movement of the top layer, and that slow movement of the top layer is simply referred as a solifluction. It is being witnessed in the subarctic area, in the high mountainous area. So in high mountainous area, subarctic area, you will find the solifluction. Solifluction will have a lots of impacts, like it will create the problem of soil erosion, then you will have landslide, some of the movement of hazard, submergence of the area. So these are some of the impacts of the solifluction. It is also very much helpful in the creation of the new type of landscape. The new type of landscape, new types of landforms will also get created, will form through the solifluction. So it is pure question of the geomorphology. Then the next question is, what geological and tectonic processes lead to the formation of the nappes in the orogenic belts? Again the question of the geomorphology. So geomorphology is dominating in the first three questions of the 10 marker. All the three questions has been asked from the perspective of the geomorphology. This is a question of the tectonic. So tectonic activity generally when the two plates are converging. So when the two plates are converging, due to intense convergence, folding activity will take place. So fold is the general consequence of convergence, horizontal movement. So whenever the two plates are coming towards each other, the fold will develop, and when there is a intense compressive forces will result into development of the very intense type of fold. So like you will have the recumbent fold, you will have a overturned fold. So recumbent fold will form, and this recumbent fold with the continuous compressive forces, tensional forces will result into overturning fold, and ultimately there will be a fault. Now the question arises that why the folding will experience the faulting? Because most of the places you will find the compressive forces and the tensional forces will always be present. So tensional forces, compressive forces, both are present, but the only matter is that which force is very much intensified, which force is dominating. Like the classical case of this NAP formation, I am sure that all of you must have studied, even in the जो फाउंडेशन आपने क्लासेस किया होगा, बेसिक क्लासेस किया होगा, उसमें भी ये पढ़ाया जाता है. So we have a Kashmir Valley. Now the Kashmir Valley is primarily located on the NAP. So the Kashmir Valley is located on the NAP. NAP is a horizontal like surface, the plane like surface. This surface has been primarily formed through the recumbent fold that has undergone the excessive compressive and the faulting. Ultimately there is a breaking, and because of the breaking, one of the sides, one of the limb of the fold will overlie and it will get dragged. It will get dragged in such a manner that both will appears to have joined, and when they have appears to be joined, it will give a resemblance of mostly a plane like surface. So almost you will find wherever the naps are there, majority of the naps are present in the Himalaya, in the Switzerland. So wherever you will find the naps are there, nap is a kind of flat surface, and all around it you will find there is a tall mountains. Tall mountains gives us that this landscape, this landform must have been developed in that area where there is a great tectonic activity, there great compressive forces. So this great compressive forces, how come the plane like surface has developed? There should be a fault, there should be a fold, लेकिन fold क्या हो गया, वो fault breaking हो गई, because of that it has transformed into that. So these first three questions are from the geomorphology. Now moving to the next question. Explain the relationship between the air masses and local wind. Straight question, but here the problem is that those students who have just prepared the air masses, they will find it little bit difficult in tackling this question. तो अगर आपने केवल एयर मासेस पढ़ा होगा तो आपको थोड़ी सी समस्या होगी इसको टैकल करने में, लेकिन अगर आपने एयर मास मॉडिफिकेशन पढ़ा होगा, सो इफ यू हैव स्टडीड द टॉपिक ऑफ एयर मास as well as air mass modification, so you will not find any problem in tackling this question. So air mass modification is very much associated, because when the air mass has developed, what is air mass? Air mass is a very large parcel of the air. So air mass is a very large parcel of the air that has been developed due to lying over any particular area surface for the longer period of time, and it has been uniform, very similar physical characteristic in terms of temperature and humidity. The area from where the air mass is developing is known as the source region of the air mass. Now the question arises that whether this air mass will be able to affect the weather condition, affect the other moving air or not. So the answer is wherever this air mass will go, let's say you will have an air mass of monsoon. Now when this warm and moist air will enter in the India, it will have tendency to modify the local weather condition, it will bring the rainfall. Similarly, if the air is turning out to be air mass in the Pacific region, and from the Pacific it is moving in the form of westerly, so the western side of the Rocky Mountain, it will bring the rainfall. But the same air mass, when it will crosses the Rocky Mountain, it will have tendency to getting change up. In fact, during winter season, what will happen? The air mass is cold. So air mass is cold, and while crossing the Rocky, it will be forced to slide down, and when it will be forced to slide down, the same air mass in the local area, local region will turn out to be the warm winter season में. और जब winter season में आपका warm हो गया तो वही आपकी local wind हो जाएगी. तो majority of the air masses will go for the modification, and in this modification, if they are over the continental area, there will be more tendency of the modification, less over the oceanic area. तो oceanic area पे थोड़ा मॉडिफिकेशन कम होगा. मॉडिफिकेशन विल बी मोर ड्यूरिंग द समर सीजन, विंटर सीजन, So if you will have a warm air mass is moving in the winter season in some land area, there will be tendency that it will get affected if it is moving to the plain area or it is moving over the mountainous area. If there is a cold air mass and it is moving to the continental part during the summer season, obviously there will be change in the air mass due to the local prevailing condition. So this is how you need to present this particular question. इसी तरीके से आप इसे आंसर करेंगे. Moving to the next question. So this is a question of the climatology. So it is question that has been asked from the climate topic. Now, next question is, what are the fundamental difference among ocean wave, ocean current and ocean tide? So this is from the ocean. So if you will look from the perspective of the physical geography, generally what happens in question number 1, that is compulsory question, they will have tendency to ask one question each from all the 5 chapters: the geomorphology, climatology, oceanography, biogeography and the environmental geography. But this year they have focused more over the geomorphology and the climate, ocean. So they have in a way neglected the biogeography and the environmental geography. But if you will look out the questions of glacial lake outburst flood, solifluction, then you will find that environmental theme has not been missed. तो environmental theme तो पूछी ही गई है, क्योंकि ग्लेशियल लेक आउटबर्स्ट फ्लड न्यूज में है, एनवायरमेंटल पर्सपेक्टिव है, सॉलिफ्लक्शन लैंडस्लाइड के बारे में आप पढ़ते हैं, मास वेस्टिंग के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, तो फ्रॉम दैट पर्सपेक्टिव द क्वेश्चन हैज बीन फ्रेम्ड. नाउ व्हाट आर द फंडामेंटल डिफरेंस? फंडामेंटल डिफरेंस, देयर आर मल्टीपल डिफरेंस. The forces that are responsible for the development of these 3 is different. The extent in which these phenomena are occurring, that is different. The energy that is involved in this, that is also different. So ocean wave, ocean currents and the tides, these are the 3 different phenomena. Ocean waves, these are limited to the coastal areas. Phenomena will be developed in the sea, high sea, but when it will reaches to the coastal area, then only we will be able to witness. This is the only transfer of the energy, not the transfer of water. When it comes to the ocean current develop through the combination of the forces, but the ocean current is like the global phenomena. So throughout the globe, we will find the water is moving in a fixed pattern. Subtropical gyre is there. Oceanic tide is simply the horizontal, rising and falling. So continuous rising and falling, rhythmic rising and falling of the oceanic water is simply known as the oceanic tide. Moving to the next question, that is second. How does denudation chronology? So this question has been asked from the topic of denudation chronology. Denudation chronology is again a topic of geomorphology. तो geomorphology के topic से question पूछा गया है. Denudation chronology is basically a kind of historical record. तो जैसे हम लोग कुछ written textbook, so what has happened in the 1947 or what has happened in the 1857. So there are 2-3 ways. Let's suppose that you will have some video recording. तो आपने video recording देख लिया, आपको पता चल गया कि that look this was happened. या आपके पास कोई written आ गया कि that in that 5 year, in that 1 year what has happened, तो उससे आप पढ़ सकते हैं. अब ये जो अर्थ की हिस्ट्री है कि हमारे माउंटेन्स हैं, हमारे सरफेसेस हैं, प्लेन्स हैं, रिवर्स हैं, ये जितने भी हमारे सरफेसेस हैं, इसके बारे में तो किसी ने देखा नहीं कि कैसे बने. तो अब ये जो बने किस तरीके से बने, हाउ वी गेट टू नो. सो इफ वी वांटेड टू नो, इफ वी वांटेड टू try to understand that how the Himalaya has been formed, how the Aravallis have been formed, how the Western Ghat have been formed, the only way out is looking out the geological history. Geological history is like a study of the rock, study of the fossils, if some fossils are there, some plants are there. So the geological history that is being recorded within the rock, within the earth surface, is the subject matter of the denudation chronology. तो यही आपकी denudation chronology है. इसी से हम समझ सकते हैं कि how the changes have happened, and if the changes have happened, so what are the some changes. So this is how you need to tackle. So this is also the question of the geomorphology. So initial 3 questions, that is 30 marks. This is also 20 marks. So till now you will find 50 marks question has been asked from the geomorphology. Next question is, what is deep sea mining? What are the potential benefits and risks associated with the deep sea mining? Deep sea mining, where is deep sea, or what is deep sea? So first you need to write about the deep sea. Question is from the oceanography. Oceanography का question है. So where you will have the deep sea, where you will have the abyssal plain, where the minerals are present, किस form में minerals present है, nodules. So this is how you need to write. Then deep sea mining. Then extra things you can write, because potential benefit and risk. So India's deep sea mission. This happens to be very much in the news because of the blue economy that India is focusing. So most of the students must have been idea, information about this. So there is no problem in that. Then next question is, man and wildlife conflicts are ever increasing. Discuss its causes, consequences and remedies. It is primarily from the biogeography topic. तो जो क्वेश्चन आपका पूछा गया है बायोजियोग्राफी टॉपिक से पूछा गया है. अब मैन एंड वाइल्ड लाइफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स आर एवर इंक्रीजिंग. तो यू नीड टू गिव सम एग्जांपल्स. In fact, historical, if you will start looking out, right from the time of Jim Corbett, because the tigers were attacking more and more people in the Uttarakhand, and the Jim Corbett was being called, and Jim Corbett happens to be the hunter. So Jim Corbett has been called, and Jim was basically a killer. And what came to light that initially he killed lots of tigers, but later on he realized that there must be some problem. So this question has been asked from the perspective of the issues of ecosystem degradation, biodiversity degradation. So that is why the conflict is very much increased. In fact, in Maharashtra, there has been a very great increase in the attacking of the tigers to the humans. Now, why the tigers are attacking, why the leopards are attacking to the humans? It is not only the changing behavior, it is the changing territory. More and more roads are being constructed. More roads are being constructed. More people are going to the visiting the national park, wildlife sanctuary. Tourism is one of the fastest growing sector, and within the tourism, the ecotourism dominates. So whatever is happening in the hilly area, whatever is happening in the forest area, humans are very much responsible for that. So this is what you need to write. Then the causes लिखेंगे, consequences लिखेंगे, remedies में it is very important for you to highlight this point that one of the important remedies is controlling the movement. Of course, we have a environmental impact assessment. तो environmental impact assessment है, तो जिसके basis पे जो developmental activities होती हैं, तो developmental activities के लिए there are due process. तो ड्यू प्रोसेस नीड्स टू बी फाइंड आउट कि इंडस्ट्री कहाँ पे सेटअप की जाए, कोई नया टाउन आ रहा तो उसको किस तरीके से सेटअप किया जाए, एनवायरमेंटल जो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस है उसको कम किया. दैट इज फाइन, बट अलोंग विद दैट इट इज अ हाई टाइम दैट गवर्नमेंट नीड्स टू मॉनिटर एंड इन फैक्ट इफ नेसेसरी कंट्रोल ऑल्सो. तो कुछ ना कुछ कंट्रोलिंग मैकेनिज्म बनाना पड़ेगा कि जहां पे हाउ मेनी पीपल आर गोइंग टू विजिट द फॉरेस्ट एरिया, रिजॉर्ट कितने आ रहे हैं, because yes we are there is a fundamental right, because then the question of this fundamental right will come into the picture, because fundamental right gives us right for the free movement within the country. तो आप कहीं पे भी जा सकते हैं, that is a fundamental right. But fundamental right is fine, but along with that we also need to understand that if this pattern is increasing, So why this pattern is increasing, and this pattern will, if continue to increase, there will be obviously more killing, and more killing again biodiversity loss. उससे related भी question पूछा गया है. So in the remedies, this is also one of the remedies that needs to be highlighted. Moving to the third question. Third question is a straightforward question, direct question that has been asked, and this direct question has been asked from the climate. तो climate से question पूछा गया है. Examine the formation of atmospheric tricellular circulation system. Describe with example its importance in making the Earth a living planet. So basically, you need to write about the global circulation of the wind. So global circulation of the wind, then how these global circulation of the wind, be it your trade wind, be it your westerly winds, be it your polar easterly, these are associated with the atmospheric pressure जो belt है हमारी. So equatorial low pressure belt, subtropical high pressure belt on both the sides, subpolar low pressure on the both sides, then the polar high pressure, and then associated circulation in the form of the Hadley cell, the Ferrel cell, the polar cell. So Hadley cell, Ferrel cell, polar cell in both the hemisphere is simply referred as the tricellular meridional model, जिसको आप कहते हैं short form में tricellular circulation. How it is important in making the Earth a living planet? So it is very important to understand that this entire circulation, atmospheric circulation, is responsible for the transfer of the energy, transfer of the heat. So heat is getting transferred on the Earth's surface mainly with the help of the wind, and wind is moving in the form of the circulation. So from that perspective, you need to write that over the period of time, it is the heat transfer that has been responsible for maintaining the heat pattern on the Earth's surface. So it is again question of the climate. तो climate का question है, what is the event decade on the ecosystem restoration? Ecosystem restoration का जो event decade है, that is 2021 to 2030. 30 हमारा SDG का भी year है, Sustainable Development Goals के जो target year that is 2030 है. And the basic idea is that ecosystem restoration will be very much helpful. There has been many reasons for the ecosystem degradation. तो उसमें एक habitat loss है, deforestation है, pollution है. Different reasons are there for the loss of the ecosystem, and in fact this ecosystem restoration is not limited to any particular ecosystem. It is covering terrestrial ecosystem, then freshwater ecosystem, then marine water ecosystem, even the coastal ecosystem. So all types of ecosystem is being covered in this. So this is how you need to tackle, you need to write. This is a question of the environmental geography. तो ये environmental geography का question है. The Himalaya is still rising. Expand this statement and describe the processes involved with it. So direct question has been asked through the how the discuss the process of formation of the Himalaya. You can give the reference that just few years back, the Nepal has recalculated within the help of China. So there is a different angle in that recalculation. तो कुछ political angle भी है, but political angle को अगर हम छोड़ दें, when we'll look from the geographical perspective, then we'll find that earlier the height of the Mount Everest was 8848 meter, but there has been a decrease, there has been an increase of roughly 3 feet increase in the height. तो अभी की जो आपकी height है, that is 8848 point roughly 5 meter. तो आपकी जो हिमालय है, माउंट एवरेस्ट है, उसकी हाइट बढ़ गई है. तो माउंट एवरेस्ट की जो हाइट है परसेप्टिवली वेरी लो ह्यूमन के पर्सपेक्टिव से बढ़ रही, बट दिस लो rising, low increase in the height is giving us clear hint that definitely there has been a continuous process. तो अभी भी जो orogenic processes है that are taking place, mountain has not reached its stability. तो जो orogenic stability है वो अभी भी achieve नहीं हुई है. So you just need to write about that process of formation of the Himalayan mountain. You need to give the examples, you need to write about the different processes like syntaxial bend, how the syntaxial bend came into existence, what is the rotation of the plate. So all these things you need to write. So again, this is a question of the geomorphology. तो जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी में 50 मार्क्स से पहले ही पूछे गए थे 40 मार्क्स. सो इट इज अगेन द 15 मार्कर. सो इट इज लाइक 55. तो 55 आपके फर्स्ट 3 क्वेश्चंस, देन 120 मार्कर 50, 15 मार्कर 65. सो 65 हो गए. नाउ मूविंग टू द नेक्स्ट. What are the ecological consequences of agricultural deforestation in the Amazon and Congo basins, particularly concerning biodiversity and the climate regulation? So again the question is of biogeography. तो ये biogeography का question है, थोड़ा environmental perspective है. Agricultural deforestation in the Amazon. See, in the Amazon region and Congo basin, there has been a very rapid rate of the deforestation. बहुत न्यूज में था पिछले 2-3 सालों से. In fact, this deforestation is also associated with the forest fire. तो forest fire का भी issue है. Some of the environmentalists criticize the Brazilian government that this is promoted by the Brazilian government, supported by the Brazilian government. And in this area, the animal ranching is at its peak because the meat industry, the slaughterhouses are propping up. There has been a greater demand from the North America, from the Europe. So that is why the more and more deforestation is happening, and this deforestation is associated with the agricultural activity. Now the question arises that whenever you will have the deforestation, so you will have a problem. Amazon rainforest is considered as the lungs of the earth. तो अगर आपके अमेजन रेन फॉरेस्ट डिफॉरेस्ट किए जा रहे हैं तो डेफिनेटली देयर विल बी सम नेगेटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस. नेगेटिव कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस वहीं तक नहीं लिमिटेड रहेंगे. इट विल आल्सो हैव द रैमिफिकेशंस इन द अदर पार्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. सो दैट इज व्हाट यू जस्ट नीड टू राइट. बायोडाइवर्सिटी एंड द क्लाइमेट रेगुलेशन, योर पोल्यूशन, योर कार्बन सिंक, एवरी एस्पेक्ट नीड्स टू बी looked upon. But there is a one thing that you need to understand, that of course there is a climatic perspective, there is an environmental perspective, but also we need not to forget about the humanistic perspective, the country specific, because development is the right of every region, every country. It should not be looked from the Western perspective. So if the people, those who are living in this Amazon region, Congo region, they are living from the centuries, from the almost right from the oncoming of the civilization. अब आपको अमेजन डिफॉरेस्टेशन से इफेक्ट तुरंत दिखने लगा कि अमेजन में आपके फॉरेस्ट बर्न हो रहे हैं, अमेजन में डिफॉरेस्टेशन हो रहा, तो उसकी वजह से क्लाइमेट हमारा और प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट होगा. बट वी ऑल्सो नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट द प्रॉब्लम हैज बीन कॉज्ड नॉट बाय द people of the Amazon or Congo, it is being caused by the Western countries. And in fact, Western countries, what they are doing in the upcoming COP30 that will take place in the Brazil only, Brazil is the having chair, North America has pulled out. So in the first tenure also, the President Trump has decided to pull out from the Paris agreement, कि नहीं हम पेरिस एग्रीमेंट को नहीं मानते, हमारी कंट्री में जो भी होगा वी विल डू इट, वी आर नॉट बॉदर्ड अबाउट द एनवायरमेंट. तो एनवायरमेंट का कोई मतलब ही नहीं. ही इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ दैट. एंड द मोस्ट ऑफ द पोल्यूशन, मोस्ट ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ दिस पोल्यूशन, दिस ग्रीन हाउस गैस इज बीइंग कॉज्ड बाय द अमेरिकन्स एंड द यूरोपियंस. यूरोपियंस आर accepting this, that yes, they are following that principle of common but differential responsibility. तो डिफरेंशियल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के लिए यूरोपियंस एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं, बट द अमेरिकन्स आर रनिंग, स्पेसिफिकली द प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प, फ्रॉम दिस पर्सपेक्टिव. सो दैट इज आल्सो नीड टू बी हाईलाइटेड इन वन लाइन. तो वो भी पर्सपेक्टिव आप लिख सकते हैं कि इट इज नॉट दैट the entire onus lies on these people. Definitely we cannot justify, we will not justify, लेकिन outer जो problems है that are also needs to be taken up. ठीक है. Then they examine the distribution and balance of energy in the Earth atmospheric system. The distribution of the energy, the different area where the energy is being distributed, where we have higher energy, where we have lesser energy, the tropical region, the equatorial region, the higher latitude. Then the heat budget. The heat budget also needs to be discussed. Heat budget of the Earth, that how the insolation is coming and what is the role of the atmosphere. So heat budget and the distribution of the energy. So it is the question of climate. तो climate का question है. The last question of the physical geography section is again from the geomorphology. Coastal landform. So landform, they have asked periglacial landform, they have asked glacial landform, they have asked coastal landform. So almost 2-3 landforms has been checked. So describe the process of formation of the barrier islands and explain their significance. Barrier islands is like barrier beaches. So like barrier islands are there, barrier beaches are there. Generally what happens, whenever you will have a nearby a parallel island, so there will be a coast और coast के parallel में island होगा, and this island basically depositional in nature, but this island is different from the other landscape like Tombolo. So it is spits bar. तो ये इस तरीके से different है because it is not having any connectivity from the mainland. तो mainland से पूरी connectivity खत्म हो जाएगी, and in between there will be a lagoon. So in between there can be a lagoon, there can be a lake, lagoon lake. So this is the barrier island. Barrier island is present in India, in the different part of the world. So barrier islands are present coastal region. Explain their significance. Again, the significance in terms of fishing activity, in case of living, in case of your space launching centers, that is also the one of the utility. Then the strategic significance. So in general, significance of the island can be highlighted related to this. So if you will include this also, then almost 80 marks question has been asked. 3 10 marker, 1 20 marker, and 2 15 marker. 80 marks question has been asked from the geomorphology. And in fact, if you have prepared the very basics of the geomorphology, जिसको हम लोग कहते हैं process, denudation chronology, plate tectonic, अगर आपने landform नहीं भी किया होता, तो then also you might have been in a condition to tackle the paper very well. तो landforms अगर आपने बहुत डिटेल में नहीं किया है, तब भी आप बहुत अच्छे से प्रिपेयर, बहुत अच्छे से आप टैकल कर सकते थे फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी. One more thing which I used to suggest every time, that whenever you are preparing, some of the student will have a tendency to just note down the name of the philosopher, note down the name of the geographer, and they try to mug up the name, and they will have tendency to write the geographer's name in every question. In some of the questions, if the question is being asked about what are the ecological consequences of agriculture, deforestation in the Amazon and Congo basin, what is the need of highlighting the geographical thinker? What is the event decade of on ecosystem restore? So what is the need of that? Man and wildlife conflict are ever increasing. No need to be philosophical, no need to be just focusing on the what is deep sea mining. अब इसमें आप क्या करेंगे? Thinker, कुछ बच्चे क्या करेंगे? They start quoting some of the oceanographer. No need to do that. Wherever it is needed, you should be in a condition to write that. डेनुडेशन क्रोनोलॉजी पूछा गया, प्लेट टेक्टोनिक थ्योरी पूछा गया, कोस्टल लैंडफॉर्म पूछा गया, तो डेफिनेटली यू कैन राइट अबाउट द थिंकर्स, बट नॉट इन all the question you will try to write. Moving to the question number 5, the first question, why did the welfare approach in human geography emerge as a significant perspective in the 1970? So it was the basically as a part of the radical geography in the in response to the quantitative revolution. तो quantitative revolution को जब criticize किया गया, quantitative revolution become very abstract and it was very far from the reality of the society. तो जो सोसाइटी में प्रॉब्लम्स चल रहे थे, जो भी चीजें हो रही थी, उससे जब दूर जाने लगा, तो उसी से आपका वेलफेयर अप्रोच निकला. डीएम स्मिथ हैपेंस टू बी वन ऑफ द मेजर प्रोपोनेंट ऑफ दैट. देयर वाज अ वेरी फेमस कोट आल्सो, हु गेट्स व्हाट वेयर एंड हाउ. तो वो that things you need to write. So it's a straightforward question, and I'm sure that all the students writing, appearing for the mains examination, they will be able to write this. So there won't be any kind of problem. Geographical thought से question है. What are the key, पहले देख लेते हैं, what are the key environmental and economic challenges linked to the extraction and processing of critical minerals? Critical minerals different फॉर्म में, प्रीलिम्स में भी, मेंस में भी पूछा ही जा रहा है, जीएस में भी. क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, कुछ क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स आपको लिखना होगा. लिथियम इज वन ऑफ द इंपॉर्टेंट क्रिटिकल मिनरल, कोबाल्ट इज वन ऑफ द क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, रेयर अर्थ, मिनरल्स. सो ऑल दीज आर द क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स. तो ये सारे ही क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स हैं, और ये जितने भी आपके क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स हैं, these are present. अब ये जो क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स हैं, why there has been a tendency of extracting more and more critical minerals? मशीनरी आ रही, टेक्नोलॉजी आ रही, ईवी है, इलेक्ट्रिकल व्हीकल्स है, स्मार्टफोन्स हैं, चिप्स हैं. सो इन द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ ऑल दीज एडवांस machinery, techniques, technology, we require these critical minerals, so their extraction is also becoming more and more. Now obviously everything will have environmental and economic challenges. तो जो डीप सी माइनिंग है, डीप सी माइनिंग में आप मैरीन इकोसिस्टम को अफेक्ट कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे आप टेरेस्ट्रियल इकोसिस्टम को अफेक्ट कर रहे हैं. सो चैलेंजेस विल बी सेम. इनफैक्ट यहाँ पे इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस भी पूछा है. अब इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस क्या है आपके? ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम विल फाइंड लाइक ईवी टेक्नोलॉजी इज देयर. नाउ ईवी टेक्नोलॉजी is very much limited, is very much accessible to only some of the countries. और कौन सी countries होंगी? Over the period of time it will be more, become more popular in the countries, societies that are better, those who are rich in a way. अब आप देखिए, who has polluted the environment? So the pollution has been done by the rich, by the Western countries. And Western countries have been money. So Western countries have been money. Now they will use the EV vehicles. And who are going to use diesel? Who are going to use kerosene? Is the poor people. Now the poor people will be blamed that they are responsible for the environmental degradation. So this is perspective that needs to be, right in this. Pull factors in internal migration are often based on perceptions rather than reality. Explain. Pull factors in internal migration often, see, जो भी हमारा माइग्रेशन है, इंटरनल माइग्रेशन इज लाइक डोमेस्टिक माइग्रेशन. तो अब अगर इंडिया के पास पॉपुलेशन का क्वेश्चन है, दिस इज द क्वेश्चन ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन ज्योग्राफी. पॉपुलेशन ज्योग्राफी, दिस वाज द क्वेश्चन ऑफ द इकोनॉमिक ज्योग्राफी. ये इकोनॉमिक ज्योग्राफी का क्वेश्चन था. This is a question of population geography. Pull factors in the internal migration. जो आपका internal migration है, domestic migration है, there are two factors, pull factor, push factor. Generally push factors are like you are not having any other option. तो जैसे आपने यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन शुरू किया, तो लेट सपोज अब आपके पास कोई ऑप्शन ही नहीं, तो आपने कहा चलो यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन कर सकते, तो वो आपका पुश फैक्टर हुआ। बट यू आर कमिंग फ्रॉम द प्रीमियर इंस्टीट्यूट, आपने प्रीमियर इंस्टीट्यूट से मेडिकल की पढ़ाई की, इंजीनियरिंग की पढ़ाई की, कॉमर्स में पढ़ाई की, तो मेडिकल इंजीनियरिंग में पढ़ाई करने के बाद ऑब्वियसली यू आर हैविंग अ ग्रेटर पॉसिबिलिटी टू गेटिंग ए जॉब, और अच्छी जॉब आपकी मिलने की पॉसिबिलिटी थी, फिर भी आप you have decided that I will pursue the UPSC preparation. So when you are doing that, this is a pull factor. So similarly, if anyone is coming from the rural area to urban area, just in the hope, in the rural area they are doing, it is not like that they are starving, it is not like that they are not having the anything to food, but yes, money is lesser, तो जो cash है वो आपकी कम है, तो in that hope that you will get more, they are moving. Now in the urban area, highlight the problems. What are the problems we will highlight? Health issues, urbanization, traffic congestion, stress, job losses, job cutting, firing. So all the issues that we are facing in the urban area, just highlight. And from that perspective, you light that it is more like a perception. कई बार perception ही है, reality नहीं है. वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन इट हैज बीन आस्क्ड। तो यहाँ पे जितने ज्यादा से ज्यादा आप एग्जांपल्स देंगे, एंड थ्रू द एग्जांपल्स इफ विल ट्राई टू लुक आउट दैट यस यू आर नॉट जस्ट स्टडीइंग द माइग्रेशन। आप उसे माइग्रेशन ऐसा नहीं कि आपने किताब उठाया और किताब में आपने माइग्रेशन पढ़ लिया, रादर you are studying the migration, you know the migration theories, the migration concept, internal migration, external migration, domestic migration, international migration, pull factor of migration, push factor of the migration, but along with that you are also in a condition to relate this migration from the other topics. Moving to the next question, that is regional geography का question है। Regional imbalances are the product of in situ and ex situ factor. देखो in situ factor in a way you can say it's a natural factor. Ex situ factor is like political factor, man-made factor. जैसे अगर मैं एक अच्छा एग्जांपल दूं आपको, initially there was some regional imbalances between UP, especially the eastern part of UP and the western part of UP. ईस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ यूपी, वेस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ यूपी या आपका बिहार और पंजाब में एक रीजनल इम्बैलेंस था। अब उस रीजनल इम्बैलेंस को और बढ़ा दिया गया बाय मैन मेड फैक्टर्स। ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन हैज बीन लॉन्च्ड एंड द ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन हैज गिवन अ ट्रेमेंडस बेनिफिट इन द पंजाब। Nowadays if you travel in the Punjab and if you are traveling in the Bihar, then you will find that the Punjab appears to be 30 years ahead of the Bihar. तो ये जो आपका क्रिएट किया गया है इम्बैलेंसेस, ये आपका मैन मेड है। जहां जहां पे आपने इंडस्ट्री लगाई, इंडस्ट्री के लिए लोकेशन सेलेक्ट किया, लोकेशन हैज बीन सेलेक्टेड फ्रॉम सम बेसिस, सो दीज आर द सम ऑफ द पर्सपेक्टिव। Then systems analysis important in urban planning. Systems analysis is like looking out everything from the holistic perspective. तो systems analysis एक holistic perspective में देखा जाता है। Input है, process है, output है। So this part you can highlight like input, process, output, feedback. How we can utilize the resources in a better manner. Everything will be planned in a systematic manner. So if you will have the urban planning, where you can have a waste disposal, where you can have the roads, where you can have the industries, where you can have the space for the housing, leisure, everything will be planned in a holistic manner. So this is a regional planning topic. Then a straightforward question, how have dichotomy and dualism affected the methodological development of the geography described? So geography over the period of time, right from the time of Alexander von Humboldt and Karl Ritter, dichotomy and dualism has been the main theme till the 20th century. Here you will have the debate of physical geography versus the human geography, a regional approach versus the systems approach, possibilism versus the determinism, and ultimately it has come out in the form of humans approach, radical approach, welfare approach, then you will have the postmodernism. So in the present time period, there has been approach. So जो हमारा present approach है, we are not believing or we are not following the dualism and dichotomy. Rather, our orientation is becoming that looking out the phenomena, looking out the things in a smaller scale. So in a way, you can say the regional approach is there, but more importantly, we are utilizing the best of both. So if the regional approach and the systematic approach is there, so we are not strictly going to follow the regional approach, we are not going to strictly follow the systems approach. Wherever requires, we will make synthesis of that and we will use that. Then the role of language and religion in delineating major cultural regions. So the Muslim region, Hindu region, then within the country, like you will have the different language, you will have a cultural region. So cultural region of the world, then cultural hierarchy. So again, static questions of the population geography. Analyze the spatial pattern and regional specialization of plantation crops across tropical and subtropical area. तो ये plantation crop में आपका tea है, coffee है, rubber है. So these plantation crops, even to certain extent, sugar cane also be considered, but you need to limit yourself to tea, coffee, rubber. These are the important plantation crops. So here we will have the equatorial climate is well suited. So be it your Amazon basin, be it your Indonesia, Southeast Asia, then you will have India, southern part of India. There you need to highlight the and why it is suitable. So you can highlight some of the crops requirement. It requires high rainfall. There should not be waterlogging, and high rainfall is required. So all these things you can highlight. And more importantly, you can also highlight that most of the places where we have the plantation crop, the soil is not that well suited to support conventional cropping. So people are less preferring the conventional cropping and more preferring for the plantation agriculture. So it is a question of the economic geography. The economic geography. अब आप देखें, economic geography is also dominating. Like one question of the economic geography, 10 marker. One question of economic geography, 15 marker, that is 25. Next question is also economic geography, that is 20 marker. So 45. Why is oil important for the energy security? What is the role of oil in the clean energy? So oil, crude oil, GS geography में पूछा गया. So it is very important you to highlight that where we have the oil sources and what is the energy security. And in fact, in this question, it is very important to highlight the recent ongoing issues. So जो tariff का जो issue है, उस tariff का issue purely इसीलिए है कि USA is claiming that India is purchasing more oils from the Russia. So you need to highlight that we are purchasing the oil from the different sources to just diversify. We are not only purchasing from the OPEC countries. What is the role of oil in the clean energy transition? तो बहुत सारा है कि जो हमारा रिलायंस है कोल पे, वो रिलायंस को भी थोड़ा कम करेंगे हम कोल पे. सीएनजी का यूज है, सीएनजी इज कंसीडर्ड कंपैरेटिवली बेटर. So petrol is considered comparatively better than the diesel. Then next question is critically evaluate the role of primate cities in dominating the urban spheres of influence in developing country. So this is a question of the primate cities, and this primate city concept is associated with the settlement. The population settlement geography का question है. Primate city is the city that is dominating, the most important city, and like in the our country, हमारे यहाँ पे primate city का जो concept है वो applicable नहीं होता. Because the primate city concept simply believes that one of the city should be disproportionately very large population. तो किसी भी country में एक city, जैसे श्रीलंका में कोलंबो है, तो उसकी जो पॉपुलेशन है वो जो नेक्स्ट सिटी है उससे बहुत ज़्यादा है। बट इंडिया में देखेंगे तो वी हैव ऑलमोस्ट 4 सिटीज दैट आर मोर और लेस प्राइमेट। लेकिन अगर प्राइमेट को दूसरे फॉर्म में देखेंगे तो प्राइमेट मीन्स द सिटी दैट आर डोमिनेटिंग, लाइक यू विल हैव द दिल्ली, मुंबई एंड ऑल दीज सिटीज आर देयर. So these cities, what they will do, they will take away all the resources, all the labors, everything. Like you will find that there are lots of problem in the Delhi, in the Mumbai, in the Chennai, in the Kolkata, but still you will find more and more people are coming to these cities. We have a worst problem of the pollution in Delhi, but continuously population is rising. We have a worst problem of the traffic congestion in Delhi and Mumbai, but still the people are coming out. Just yesterday, day before yesterday, there was a news that almost 6-7 kilometer moving in the NCR, it took more than 10 hours. So, but still the people are coming. Then the next question is from the global demographic landscape is evolving with rapid population growth in some places and rapid aging. Again, population. So this is settlement, this is population. Population settlement एक ही chapter में. So that 30 marks question. Global demographic landscape is evolving with rapid population growth. तो जो आपकी rapid population growth है mainly African countries, तो यहाँ पे सबसे important African countries हैं, and then some of the South Asia. So some of the country of South Asia like India is there, Pakistan is there, Bangladesh is there, Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia is there, and rapid aging is others. तो पूरे वर्ल्ड में जितनी वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज है दे आर फेसिंग द एजिंग, बट इन फैक्ट हियर यू कैन आल्सो हाईलाइट दैट इट इज नॉट ओनली देयर, इवन द कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया एंड चाइना इज आल्सो हैविंग द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द एजिंग. So of course the population of the problem of the population aging is more prevalent in the Scandinavian country, in the Japan, in the Western world, but it is not very limited to that. Even the country like India and China, they are also facing. So the problems associated with that. तो उससे जो भी आपकी पॉपुलेशन एजिंग से प्रॉब्लम है, जो आपका पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ से प्रॉब्लम है, अब इससे एक सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम जो निकल के आती है, वेयर विल हैव रैपिड पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ एंड पॉपुलेशन एजिंग, ह्यूमन रिसोर्स. So there will be a deficiency of the human resource in the Western world, and when there is a deficiency of the human resource in the Western world, so more and more people will migrate, and then the issue of this nationalism versus not, like in America, that most of the jobs are being eaten away by the people coming from the India, coming from the China. बहुत सारा issue जो आपका है, this is the question has been framed from that perspective, so you need to highlight that. Question number 8 is a model and theory, direct question from the regional planning, growth pole, growth center. So Perrock's की theory of the growth pole as a model of regional growth being criticized, explained with example. So obviously this growth pole model simply suggests that the growth cannot occur everywhere. तो growth pole theory का जो basic premise है, according to that, it promotes that development should be only be promoted in some area, few area. तो अगर आपको इंडस्ट्री सेटअप करनी है तो यू कैन नॉट सेटअप द इंडस्ट्री इन ऑल द प्लेसेस. दिस इज द बेसिक प्रीमाइस. अब ये जब आपकी छोटी कंट्री है जहां पे पॉपुलेशन कम है, वहां के लिए तो ठीक है, इसने इट हैज गिवन अ वेरी गुड रिजल्ट इन द वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज, यूरोपियन कंट्रीज, अमेरिकन कंट्रीज, बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू द इंडिया, कम्स टू द अदर पार्ट ऑफ द developing countries, it has not given very good result. So from that perspective, like we have adopted the growth pole model of the development of the independence, and most of our industrialization that we have is associated with that. तो जो हमारा industrialization है वो इसी से associated है, but it has not given good result. Then we have analyzed the role of demographic transition theory in explaining variations in the fertility and mortality rates globally. तो जो हमारा role of demographic, next question है, this is a DTT, demographic transition theory. There are 3 theories of the population. Population से related है, but models and theories. So there are 3 theories: Malthusian theory, Marxian theory, and DTT. DTT is good because it considers the 2 component of the population, that is the birth rate and death rate. तो बर्थ रेट और डेथ रेट के बेसिस पे मोर्टालिटी और फर्टिलिटी के रेट बेसिस पे आपके डिफरेंट स्टेजेस हैं. तो दैट इज व्हाट यू नीड टू राइट. एनालाइज द रोल ऑफ डेमोग्राफिक ट्रांजिशन थ्योरी इन एक्सप्लेनिंग वेरिएशंस इन द फर्टिलिटी एंड मोर्टालिटी. तो फर्टिलिटी और मोर्टालिटी को सजेस्ट करता है कि किस स्टेज में जब कंट्री होगी तो आपके क्या फर्टिलिटी होगी, क्या मोर्टालिटी होगी. सो इट हैज गिवन अ गुड इंसाइट अबाउट द मोस्ट ऑफ द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज. तो डेवलपिंग के केस में you can say it is not that much relevant, but of course in the developed countries it has been given good result. तो जो भी अभी आपकी कंट्रीज हैं डेवलप्ड कंट्री जहां पे पॉपुलेशन एजिंग की प्रॉब्लम है, तो that has been predicted by the idea of this demographic transition model. In fact, you can see that the question examiner directly or indirectly is forcing you to answer this issue of the population aging, because it's becoming a very problematic theme. Then last question, how do this is from the regional geography. So from the thought, geographical thought, how do regional component make the regional synthesis in the spatial arrangement? So here you need to highlight about the idea of the chorology, the Hirschhorns. So regional synthesis idea, the debate of the regional synthesis and the QR, that is what you are supposed to write. So it's a straightforward question again from the geographical thought core part. So I don't think that you will have any problem. So in the question selection also, I don't think that you will have problem. The best thing is that this year the compulsory question was very much doable, and student has done very well, and I am hopeful that you all will get very good marks in the geography optional paper 1. So that is the brief analysis of the geography optional paper 1 from my side. After some time I will definitely start some discussions of each and every question. So how to approach, because each and every questions require considerable time period. तो एक एक question को हम लोग pick करेंगे and we will see that how to write the introduction, how to write the conclusion, how to write the body part. तो किस तरीके से आंसर को अप्रोच किया जाए, तो उसके लिए एक नई सीरीज स्टार्ट करेंगे after some times. So in the next lecture I will discuss the paper 2. So that's it for today. Whatever, if you have any doubt, if you have any concern related to the paper, so you can reach me out by writing in the comment box. So that's it from my side. Thank you.